A very good afternoon from Dakar in Senegal. What you're seeing here is the Atlantic Ocean, and across, I'm just going to show you the Gorée Island, and I'll tell you a lot more about it. So the island across the Atlantic Ocean, it's just a small island, is Gorée. Now Gorée Island is to Senegalese what Cape Coast is to Ghanaians. That was the point of no return for captured slaves from Senegal. And so in years gone by, hundreds of years ago, when the slaves were taken to the South Americas, the Caribbean, those from Senegal were kept on the Gorée Island. And this is the Atlantic Ocean. Senegal is beautiful. It's a country of 19 million people. My friends, Dakar is the capital, and we're here as part of the Trans-Africa Tourism and Unity campaign, promoting a united Africa. We sincerely believe that Africans should be able to travel within the continent of Africa without the requirements of visas. And so since August of this year, we've been on a long journey of campaigning for African unity and for a visa-free policy for all African nationals, not just for some. I mean, as a West African, I don't need a visa to places like Senegal and Gambia. By the way, Gambia is visa-free for all Africans. And so we're hoping that the leaders would listen. We're hoping that, they would give meaning to their words. We're hoping that they would stop perpetuating this divisive policy of requiring visas from other Africans before they're allowed into African countries. Here's the thing: asking other Africans to produce their visas before you allow them in is reminiscent, it reminds us of events in the colonial era. And you know what happened in the colonial era? In places like South Africa, places like then Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, and Southwestern Africa, now Namibia. Natives, people from the land, were asked to produce passes. They were actually given passes. So if you didn't have a pass, you could not move from one place to the other. And you know how dehumanizing that is? That is exactly what we are doing to our fellow African brothers and sisters by asking, by demanding, by requiring for Africans to acquire visas before we allow them into our African countries. So I'm going to bring you up to speed with where we are. We started this journey by road exclusively in August. We've done 22 countries, all by road. Togo, Benin, Nigeria. We drove to Cameroon from Nigeria, then to Equatorial Guinea, then we drove to Gabon, then to the Republic of Congo, then we drove to Democratic Republic of Congo, then we went to Angola, then Namibia, Botswana, South Africa, Lesotho, Eswatini, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, all exclusively by road. And we're actually on the way to Ethiopia by road when the Marburg virus broke out. And the Marburg virus is like Ebola, it's very deadly. So we had to make our way downward again to Southern Africa. Unfortunately, we had an accident in Zambia that kept us in Zambia for about 3 weeks. And then obviously that meant we lost time, and we had to fly to Morocco to hold some meetings, and then subsequently fly to Algeria, because you can't drive to Morocco and their neighbors. It's just like Ghana and Togo, or South Africa and Lesotho, or Zimbabwe and Zambia, or Kenya and Uganda. These are neighbors, one people, but you can't drive from Morocco to Algeria and cannot drive from Algeria to Morocco. Politics, as I would say. But that problem is also, a remnant of the colonial legacy that has really, really destroyed Africa. If you ask me, that is what I think it is about. But I think, we've gone past that, and the leaders ought to sit at the table as adults and iron things out. I mean, the situation is so bad that you can't even fly from Morocco to Algeria or from Algeria to Morocco. Both countries have imposed a no-fly zone. So it means that if you are flying from Morocco to Algeria, you have to go outside of the African continent because there's no direct flight before you can come back, into the continent and go to Algeria, and vice versa. And that's how ridiculous it is. And that is what we went through. We had to, fly, to France from Morocco before we can get to Algeria. And the other interesting and annoying thing is that tickets within the continent are so expensive. For example, when we're flying from Lusaka in Zambia to Morocco, the cheapest tickets were the European flights. Air France was the cheapest, followed by, Qatar Airways and then Emirates. The most expensive ones were the African-run airlines. Can you imagine and can you believe that? But that is the situation of the African. We have failed to think outside the box, and we are denying our own African brothers and sisters and ourselves of opportunities. I mean, why must it cost over $1,000 to fly from one part of the continent to the other? And why must I even go outside of the African continent to access another African country? I mean, the European Union would not put up with it. They would not. Their MPs would be up in arms. Their ministers, their politicians would be outraged that to move from one European country to the other, you have to fly outside of the EU to get there. They wouldn't tolerate it. So why are Africans tolerating this? Why have we put up with this? Why have we allowed this to happen all these years? Why can't we see the lost opportunities? It's mindless. Tickets are so expensive. It makes trade difficult. And you can't fault Africans who are going on holiday to Europe and North America and other places because it is cheaper. And that is a reality. It is cheaper. As much as I would want Africans to tour within Africa, because Africa is really beautiful. I've seen Africa, inside out. I've traveled throughout the continent by road. It is one of the blessed places on earth. But it is so expensive. That is the reality. And we've got to face it and do something about it. And so this is what this campaign is all about. One, to get the visas down so that our leaders would not continue, making it a requirement. As a matter of fact, Kenya is visa free. Kenya hasn't come, the world hasn't come to an end in Kenya. Republic of Benin is visa free. The world hasn't come to an end there. Gambia is visa free. The world has not come to an end there. Rwanda is visa free. The world has not come to an end there. So what is our African leaders afraid of? They talk about security. That is nonsense. That is really nonsense. In all probability, you can't have nationals of every country who is correct. Granted, in all probability, including Europeans and North Americans. That is the reality. So what you need to put in place, strong biometric systems, strong checks and balances, certainly not visa requirements, but, using new technology to make sure that you know the whereabouts of every foreigner who comes into your country. And when they overstay, you can send them back. I mean, we can't hide under the cover of insecurity and deny this great continent of an opportunity to trade amongst itself, for Africans to visit other African countries, for Africans to enjoy this beautiful continent of Africa. We can't do that. It is ungodly. It is mindless. It is unacceptable, my friends. And so, we are on this campaign very much convinced that we are on the right side of history. And leaders of Africa who stand in the way would certainly, be judged wrongfully, when the history of Africa is written. And those who make it happen, history will be very, very kind to them. And obviously, we've got to commend all the leaders who are taking steps to make sure that this happens in Africa. The AU says they want to do this in 40 years. Can you imagine? This can be done in 5 years. That is what we believe in. Kenya is doing it. In July, Kenya announced that everybody can come in. The world hasn't come to an end in Kenya. So why can't Ghana do it? Anyway, even though there are promises that this will be done in the next, 1 year. But Ghana, being the gateway of Africa, being the epicenter of the Pan-African agenda, should actually be the one saying every African should come in without the requirement of visas. We don't know curve, no bend. No curve, no bend. This has to happen. I mean, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and government have been very supportive, but it wouldn't stop me from telling them the truth. Ghana would have to take a leading role, especially when we are projecting ourselves as the foremost Pan-African country in Africa. We can't, be requiring visas of our African brothers and sisters. We can't do that. It will be hypocritical. And Kwame Nkrumah is reeling in his grave for what is happening. That we are requiring other Africans to have visas before they come to Ghana? No, it's not right. And so 12 months, I hope it happens in 12 months. But I think, it can happen sooner than the 12 months. Already, we've got a strong, biometric system in place. And I believe we've got the technology. We can learn from the Rwandans. If Rwanda is doing it, a country that has risen from the ashes, why can't Ghana do it? Why can't Senegal do it for all other African nationals? Why can't Togo do it? Why can't Zimbabwe do it? And by the way, Zimbabwe has got one of the, best systems at their land border control. Really, really exciting. And I must, commend them for that. So we're in Senegal. From here, we're going to Gambia, and then we're going by road to Gambia. It's 5 hours from here. And then we proceed to Conakry, then to Sierra Leone, Liberia, Ivory Coast, maybe Burkina Faso, and then we head back into Ghana. Thank you for watching. Share the link. Africa has got to work, and we, our generation, must force the leaders to make it happen for us. We've got to force them to make it happen. If others shed their lives, people went to jail, the Nkrumahs, the Mandelas, the Governor Mbekis, they all went to jail, just to get us independence. The least we can do is to make Africa happen, is to make Africa work again, is to make Africa greater than it already is. And this is our little contribution as members of the Trans-Africa Tourism and Unity Campaign. And I want to thank everybody who's been very supportive, our media partners. We can't thank them enough, for giving us the platform to, advocate for this very important journey. Africa needs it now more than ever. So I leave you with this amazing view of the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. Now, South America is just 2,800 kilometers from here. You can literally swim across to South America. Literally swim across to South America. Senegal is the closest point in Africa to South America than any other African country. So we're here exploring the culture. This is a beautiful place. It's more, cleaner and greener than the last time I saw it some 13 years ago. They are taking the issue of afforestation seriously. They are planting more trees, more flowers. And yeah, if you ever get to, visit, enjoy yourself. They've got good food, beautiful beaches, and everything that is exciting. I mean, wrestling obviously is a national sport here. Senegal has the tallest statue in the whole of Africa, and one of the tallest statues in the world. That's the African Renaissance statue, which was commissioned by President Abdoulaye Wade in the early 2000s. It got completed in 2010, I think, at the cost of nearly $30 million. But I think the price tag is worth it because it's attracting a lot of visitors. And so for me and the team from here, we say thank you and best wishes, and we hope to see you on the road soon enough. Bye from Senegal.